From a design point of view, I wanted people to be close to the sea.
From the start, he's gone head-to-head with engineer Mike McNicholas, who's responsible for the island's design.
So I wanted the island as low as you possibly could, you know, skimming the sea. I'm coming from the other end, needed to make sure we were protecting the island.
McNicholas's worst fear was that waves breaking over the island could damage the hotel or even drag guests into the sea. Initially, the engineers planned to build the island from rocks. They're available locally and the technology works. But Wright rejected this plan. A rock island would have to be far too high and wide to repel the sea safely. To keep the island low, McNicholas experimented with pioneering concrete blocks designed to reduce the impact of the waves. But no one in the Gulf had ever used these blocks before.
I had to insist with the team that we carried out tank testing. It was the only way we were going to be sure that the island would be safe.
These tests replicate the power of the tallest waves that can occur once in 100 years, then send them crashing into a series of differently configured models. 3 weeks of testing proved the hollow blocks work. The construction team built the island with steep rock slopes, then covered them in the concrete blocks to absorb the force of the waves. These ingenious blocks work like a sponge. As the wave hits, the water passes inside the space and turns around on itself. The force is largely dissipated. With the engineers' help, architect Tom Wright has won his battle for a secure low island that rises only 7.5 meters above the waves. November 1995. The artificial island for the world's tallest all-suite hotel was now complete. The construction team could start phase 2 of this unique project, the foundations. The support needed for any skyscraper is vast. But the location of the Burj Al Arab presented an added challenge.
It's never been done before to build something like this on reclaimed land. I mean, we're talking about a 300-metre high tower on a man-made island in 6 meters of the Arabian Gulf.
The problems multiplied when the results of core tests revealed bad news. The drilling team searching for bedrock for the foundations drilled deep into the seabed. But even a full 180 meters down, there was no solid rock. This would make their job tougher, but the architects remained defiant.
The average person would think we're crazy to build something like this on sand, let alone out in the water.
This 321-meter structure has to stand firm against earthquakes and 90-mile-an-hour winds. But its foundations depend on nothing more substantial than sand. The architects had a plan. They'd support the Burj using steel-reinforced concrete foundation piles drilled deep into the sand. To stop the whole building from just sinking, they'd rely on an effect known as skin friction, the resistance that stops two rough surfaces slipping past each other.
Skin friction is all about the contact between the sand and the surface of the pile. And the longer the pile, the further in the ground it is, the greater that effect. And I'm going to demonstrate it now by whacking it in. You'll see it starts to move quite quickly with the first few impacts. Now it's starting to stiffen up a bit. Even though I'm not hitting it any harder or any softer, and the skin effect is starting to really kick in here.
Once the friction between the post and the sand around it equals the load of the hammer, the post comes to a halt. The crisp scheme would only anchor the Burj if the sand is compacted enough to create resistance around the building's piles. The drillers pack sand samples into sealed containers and send them off to be analyzed. If the results show the sand is too loose, then support on the piles anchoring the building could suddenly fail. In the southern end of the Arabian Gulf, this threat could be particularly serious. Dubai lies within range of a major fault line, so this soaring megastructure might be vulnerable to earthquakes. In June 1964, a 7.5 magnitude earthquake hit Niigata in northern Japan, an area also built on sandy silt. The tremors flipped over entire apartment buildings as the ground gave way beneath them. This wasn't normal earthquake collapse. The devastation was due to a phenomenon known as liquefaction. As grains of loose sand shake, they fill up any air pockets and compact, taking up less space. The ground stops behaving like solid earth and settles like a liquid. On shifting sand, any building could simply topple. When the results of the drilling tests returned, it was good news. Deep beneath the site, they found compacted and calcified sand. Liquefaction is not a threat. But the foundations must be long enough for the skin friction to hold them firm.
We weren't going to take any chances, and we extended the piles by another 8 meters.
Crisp specified foundations over 20% longer than originally planned. These 250 concrete piles have a combined length of over 6.5 miles, 35 times as long as the towering hotel they will support. One by one, the engineers were solving the challenges thrown up by this extraordinary structure. But in 1996, they braced themselves for a new set of obstacles as they began Phase 3, the construction of the hotel itself.
This building had to stand up to the worst that the Gulf could throw at it.
The hotel has slender concrete walls, not capable of withstanding the elements alone. To hold them firm against high winds and earthquakes, the architect devised a visually stunning solution. A gigantic steel structure outside the main building known as an exoskeleton. A series of vast diagonal trusses tie 2 huge steel bows to the concrete core at the back of the building. Wright's design makes the building unique. But his giant diagonal trusses would make life hell for Anthony McCarter, the engineer who had to make them work.
Those trusses gave me 4 months of heartache, sleepless nights, worries, anxiety.
They must be incredibly strong to tie the exoskeleton together, but aesthetics are just as vital.
It was critical that these diagonals were very, very elegant and also very beautiful as they're so visible.
This building had to amaze the world and make Dubai a must-stop destination. Wright was not about to compromise.
I used to go to Tom with option after option. I remember one particular occasion where I had 7 options and he went, no, 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 no good, no good, no good.
Eventually, McCarter found a form that worked structurally and was graceful enough to fit Wright's vision. But this in turn caused nightmares for Malcolm Murphy, the chief contractor.
It's okay for the architect to draw pretty pictures, but we have to build it.
He found a factory just 10 miles from the construction site capable of welding the huge diagonals. Each one is longer than the Airbus A380 Super Jumbo and heavier than 20 double-decker buses. Welding complex forms like this in the factory isn't simple, but it's nothing compared with transporting them to the site. With each truss weighing in at 165 tons and reaching a staggering 85 meters in length, it was no easy task.
And the challenges to do that were just unbelievable.
No one has ever transported anything this size before in Dubai, but Murphy was not going to be beaten. He brings in one of the world's largest heavy-lift transporters, a beast with a total of 80 wheels. It makes the slow journey to the construction site at an average speed of 4 miles an hour. Police must close roads and remove traffic lights to allow this convoy